We are recording this meeting. It is also going to be going out live stream. So if I start doubling back, I will leave for just a second to mute it. We will do that, and we'll also be recording the breakout session so it's available to any members of the public who wish to look at it. This is a workshop. It is not, we are not taking public comment, and the reason we're not taking public comment is because you've already had significant amount of public comment related to this issue, and you'll take public comment once the goals are all set and we finalize the strategic plan. So there is going to be an opportunity for the public to have a chance to comment in the process. And so again, we're not limiting that, but we're not taking public comment this evening. One other thing for those of you who are in this session, the way it's set, it is muted unless the host unmute you. And so if you mute yourself and you want to speak, you need to raise your hand so that the host can unmute you. Just real quickly, we've already done directives 1, 2, and 3. We're doing directives 4 tonight, which is making the township government more accessible. In your packet that you received, it's pages 17 and 18 for the purposes of looking at the outcomes, initiatives, and that. And then the public comment that we recorded and put into the packet starts on page 39, 40, and 41. And again, if anybody's from the public, you're welcome to go and look at this on the website. It's under the strategic plan. It's available there. And you can see exactly the same thing that anybody else is seeing. In a moment, I'm going to turn this over to Anita to kind of talk us through as she's done in the past. And while she's doing that, I'm going to send out the invite. I'm just trying to make sure I've got everybody accounted for, so I have roughly the same number of people in all of the rooms. All right, I think I've got that. So I'm going to be sending out an email to John Agar, Andy, Leonard, Michael, Sonia, John, Non, and Suzanne. So I'll be sending emails out to you all for the switch over, and then as soon as Anita goes through this, you can move over to the new one. It takes me a couple minutes because I've got to go into a whole new meeting and under a whole new sign on. So I have to log out and log out of the whole thing with Zoom. So if you get there before I do, I will be in just a minute because I need to get the email sent out first. So Anita, I'm going to let you go ahead and guide us through the process.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Well, good evening, everyone. Here we are again to go over Directive 4, as Steve said, make township government more accessible. So just as a reminder, some of the outcomes we're looking for, we want information clearly presented, available, organized, and widely distributed. Fiduciary and business processes are efficient and effective. We want an outcome where stakeholders are included, respected, and valued by staff, elected and appointed officials, and committees, and who are accessible and helpful. And that township ordinances, codes, policies, and directives are uniformly enforced. So those are the outcomes that we want to see from this directive. So directing your attention to the comments in the back, just to summarize some of the key themes we heard from residents. There is a real desire for more information about how tax dollars are utilized, the township's finances, having more information and a better understanding of that. People are asking for more police presence and more accessibility to township staff and to elected officials. There were a number of comments regarding that. And then increased communication about upcoming meetings and township processes. The permits process was mentioned by a number of people also, but in general, people want to understand better some of the township processes. And then there's a strong desire that township ordinances and everything that goes with that, the ordinances, codes, policies, and directives, that they are uniformly enforced. So those are the areas that residents were concerned about. And so we will begin our breakout, moving to the breakout groups, and then we'll have our discussion in each and come back together at the end. So we'll see you shortly, all of those of you who are going to the other group. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about initiatives before and how these are an indicator of some things to think about in terms of goals. So again, as we've done before, if you have comments you want to make, if you would please put up your hand. That allows us to make sure that we're able to hear from everybody as we go through this. So the first recommended initiative is to explore better ways to provide information and to communicate with the community and implement them consistently. So that whole idea of information clearly presented, available, organized, widely distributed. So what thoughts do people have about goals that we might pursue in with respect to this? Thoughts about that?
I'd say where do people go to get their information generally? You know, is it a website? Is it social media? And, you know, working from that, use those means, whether it's, you know, the website. I know there's information posted on the township website, but maybe more on social media. If people, if their residents are using social media and they go to social media more for information, maybe more information should be posted through social media accounts.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts on this? Some people may go to social media, some may go to the website. There might be different ways. Yes, a website. Other thoughts about this? Anybody else? Ways we can.
And that was actually my, you know, echoing what Chris was saying. When I read that, I said, okay, what are the respondents saying as to where they're wanting to get the information?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know we, you know, like we try to pile a lot of information into the website. We try to get information out in the newsletter, which is, you know, quarterly through In Community Magazine. We try to do social media, but if the comments indicate that we're not hitting the mark, I'm just wondering, where are they looking for it that we're not getting it to?
Yeah, some of the, yes, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, exactly. Just to expand on what George said, these are things that we've been working on. You know, the website's been redesigned several times over the years, especially recently. And to George's point, you know, we talked about the newsletter and that providing, you know, a depth of information to keep people informed. So, you know, we've been working on this topic. Yeah. So specifically where, you know, to George's point, where we fall short, what, you know, was there, you know, is it the website? Maybe it's during the meetings. I mean, is the information presented clearly during the meetings, or do we need to look at doing something the way we have our township meeting structured? I mean, what specifically, you know, are we looking to change and improve here? So.
Other thoughts? Yes, Walt.
I'm not sure I have an answer, but I think one of the issues we have to consider is that a certain portion of the population probably does not either understand or use electronic media. And I think those are probably some of the one area that people are more disenfranchised because it's more difficult to get to that population. I'm not sure what the answer is, but not everybody is a big social media website guru.
And some of the comments seem to allude to, they'd just like to understand more what all the township does and where the tax dollars go. And, you know, some of it may be out there on a website, but they're having trouble finding it. So I don't know what you think about better ways to get information to people. Yes, Rich, and then Tina.
So I believe in 2016, we started having budget workshops to, they're informative, they gather data, things along those lines. I know that we sent that out through social media. We put it on our website. We even had people go to local stores and hang flyers up. Over the past 5 years, the turnout hasn't been good at all. So, I mean, when the survey went out, this wasn't a shocker that this was gonna come up, but we're missing the mark. But from a staff perspective, we talk about this almost on a weekly basis of how we can get it out, and sort of social media, the website, email blasts, and physical flyers we're hanging up around town. I'm kind of stumped.
Tina, you have a comment.
And we had talked about this at one point as a board and with staff about in your tax bill, maybe, or in your sewer bill, putting in a, you know, just a little piece of information that's a different color, piece of paper or something that directs you to the website, or that shows like a pie chart of where your taxes go. Because, you know, just being newly reelected, going and knocking on almost every door in the township, it feels like, we were asked, why are my taxes, you know, where does my $7,000 go? And we're saying that's your school district tax, that's not your township tax, because your township tax is $700 or whatever it is. So I think what has to happen is maybe, because you look at your tax bill, right? Everyone, you would think that people would at least open the envelope, and maybe not even on the envelope. I think someone had suggested in another meeting that we put information on the outside of the envelope, you know, the website, you know, something like that to catch somebody's eye. George has done a great job, and the rest of the staff, with this in community magazine, and it goes to every address, correct, George?
Correct. It goes to everybody in Newtown, every address, and it actually goes to everybody in Marple too.
Yes, and there's a lot of information in there, so I'm not sure, maybe we need to understand, George, that maybe we need to check all the addresses or something, because people are always surprised when I say we've got this magazine. And then there's this other magazine that Bob Blasey puts out as well. That's another magazine for businesses, but it also has information on the township as well. So I to Rich and George's and Chris's point, you know, we're putting out information. Maybe we're looking at the wrong avenues. I don't know.
George, yes. Go ahead. And Ed.
Yeah, good. George, good.
Okay. And I'll tell you, it's frustrating because we spend so much time on the newsletter, which is in community, and it's, you know, it's quarterly. I know the information that's in there, and yet oftentimes when I talk to folks, I'll say, well, you know, did you get it? It was in the newsletter and in community, and they'll say, oh yeah, I got it, but I don't really read it. And I think, okay, I mean, we've gotten it into their hands and they're not reading it. So, and that's where I really, you know, knock my head against the wall. It's like, okay, how do I get them to read? Or, you know, via whatever medium, how do we get them to read the information that we're putting out?
Ed, yes, you had a comment.
Yeah, maybe on this one, maybe what we need to do is to look at how we structure the information and do we summarize it. I guess people really aren't going to dig down real deep. You know, you need to summarize things up front, and maybe even in that magazine. You know, here's the current financial situation, and just a bullet or two or sentence or two, and something about our services. I mean, people obviously, you know, really I think are most interested in you know, finances and taxes and services. So, you know, maybe that should be looking at you know, how information is structured and summarized to provide the, you know, the interesting data right up front.
Right, right. Yeah, but yes, Chris.
If you look at the amount of mail that you get on a daily basis, and the majority of it is junk mail, and a lot of them are magazine type things, I think there might be a large percentage of the residents look at that magazine as junk mail and throw it out without ever looking at it. And as far as I think Tina was saying about the putting something in, some information in the tax bills and the sewer bills, I think that's when people get a bill from the township, that's when their curiosity is piqued. Like, why am I paying this? What is this going for? You know, that's when they're probably most interested in receiving information about what that bill is for, where that money is going. And, you know, and also what Tina said about the people don't understand the tax, like the school district, the largest portion of their taxes that they pay, it goes to the school district. But that tax bill is mailed from the township and paid at the township. So they think that money is going to the township, even though the check is written out to the Marple Newtown School District. So I think there could be some little bit more education so people understand what their tax bills actually are. You know, there's the school district, which is the largest portion. The county is the next largest portion, then the township, which is the smallest portion. But generally, when I explain that to people, they seem kind of shocked by that. You know, they just think of their total tax bill as it going to the township.
Very true. Very true. More thoughts? Any more thoughts about better, more consistent ways to communicate and provide information? Yes, Rich.
So one of the things that I've done since I've been here is I've tried to structure our budget based off the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association best budgeting practice. It pretty much tells you what to include in the budget document. With that being said, it's almost a double-edged sword, because to get this, it's actually an award if you accomplish all the steps. To get this award, you're talking about a couple 100-page document that, quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people would, one, understand, or two, want to read. When I started, I believe our budget, and don't quote me on this, was probably about 10 pages. We're up above 100 pages right now in a budget document, giving everything from demographic information to which departments spend the most money, where your capital dollars are going versus general fund dollars. But I'm kind of fighting, like I said, a double-edged sword here, because how much information is too much information for somebody to digest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, George.
And following up with Rich, one of the things that he and Steve have really tried to do is make it in a lot of ways more narrative, so that it's explained. And again, you know, so they're putting this information out. And again, if we're not missing, you know, if we're not hitting the mark,
yeah,
what is it folks are looking for?
That somebody brought up the pie chart thing. That might be a helpful way to just visualize where the dollars go. That split of school taxes and the county taxes, and then what the township gets. And then if you show one where the major expenditures go for the township itself, maybe two of those illustrations might help people. So those are some good thoughts. Anything else on this particular subject of communicating? Okay, then let's go on to one of the other recommended initiatives was to find new opportunities for the Board of Supervisors to interact with the community as a way to have more communication. So what thoughts does anybody have about goals with respect to more opportunities to interact for the board? Yes, Tina.
We've already accomplished one thing, right, Ed? We all have got
That's
t-shirts
right.
now that identify us as township supervisors with our names. So, we don't have them on our back though. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things, Ed, I think maybe what might be a great thing for us to try to start to do is it's back to this neighborhood kind of thought. You know, like I grew up in Springfield, we had commissioners, and in the commissioners you had it was wards, right? So you had one commissioner for your ward, your neighborhood. We don't have that in Newtown Township. And I think that makes it a little bit more difficult for all of us, for people to know who we are. And I think one of the ways that I think would be a nice thing for us to do, like in communities like Lissitor and in any of the new other developments, to go to like your homeowners association, maybe every, I don't know, 6 months or once a year or something. And one of us or two of us go, but also I think it's important. Leonard has an email address. I'm going to have a township email address. Suzanne just set that up for me, and it's going to be on the website. But I think we need to be a little bit more out in the community. And the way to do that is to ask the community leaders to set up meetings for us that we can go and maybe bring Rich or bring Steve or bring George and before the meeting say, what are your concerns? And we can bring that information. I'm willing to do that. I'm sure that Ed is as well. I'm volunteering you, Ed, you can tell. But I think that's a way that maybe, it's all community based. So it would just spread from that. That's just a thought right there. And we all wear our t-shirts.
Yes, of course. Yes. Other comments? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, after, I don't know how many, let's see, is it 9 years on the board, 10 years? I'm not sure where I'm at now, maybe 12 years. I don't know. And then 8 years on the school board. I think that sometimes people want to maybe come to a supervisor or, a board member, individually. And I think probably one of the best ways, let's face it, I mean, most of us are during the day, not so much accessible, maybe on the weekends we're going away or whatever, that, you have issues there too. And so it's really, the evenings and maybe sometimes during the day where you can catch up. So I think that one of the ways is email, and also like I don't mind taking calls at home. I mean, if people want to call me in the evening about a township issue, I mean, I don't want to, field calls all night, but if somebody has an issue that needs to be addressed, I have no problem taking a call at home. And then email I think is another way. And to Tina's point, events here and there, to target specific groups of people that may have concerns. I think that's a good idea, and we can spread that amongst the board to make sure that we have somebody attending those type events. So I think that I would say phone calls, email, and and targeted events. The other thing that I read in the comments, people who want immediate attention. It also points to the staff. Now I don't not trying to contact during the day. I don't know what kind of issues people are having there, or as people want to talk to the township manager, to to Chris, to the police chief, or do they want to talk to Rich about their taxes and understand the budget more? I don't know what type of specific issues there, but I guess the best way there is really to call. And I know I mean I think we usually use take messages through the phone system. I don't know, maybe do we have a we have a general email address, right, Rich?
Yeah.
Do we need to publish that more to say, look, if you have an issue, you know, you can't get through to us on the phone, you know, send an email to this address. Maybe we should publish it more in our meetings and on the website, and, you know, just through word of mouth, you know, so that people can reach the, you know, staff member that they need for various issues. So I think there's some of the ways for the board and the staff to interact better with the public.
Any other thoughts on Board of Supervisors interaction before we move on to the next? All right, if not, the next one is provide training and reinforcement of outstanding customer service practices. So just overall, so what thoughts do people have about a good way to accomplish that, so that you know, the goal here is to have stakeholders feel like they're included and respected and valued and so forth. And so one way is through customer service. So what thoughts does anybody have about that? Yes, Rich.
I can tell you right now that Steve was here before me, but George and Chris can talk. Steve's pride is in customer service, and I believe that the staff we're trying our best. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but my question would be, what kind of customer service are they actually asking for? Are they asking for quicker responses? Are they asking for that's what are they saying that the staff isn't acting professionally? Is it the response time? Is it that's what, when I see customer service, that's what I'm not understanding about this question.
Well, one of the comments, if I just look back at some of the comments, one of them was township should have people available to address problems at the township building during the times that is open. For some reason, some people are thinking they can't get to the person that they need. I don't know what is occurring there. It just, there's something, I guess, that they're looking for. And I just think they're looking for responsiveness, a way to get their questions answered and get help.
Well,
yes,
I guess just really, you know, just to Rich's point, without knowing specifics, just in general, you know, that we should publicize more how to get to the town. What are the ways to contact the township? And obviously, everybody knows you can go to the town. Well, not so much go to the township building during these times, but during normal times, that's one way. You know, calling is another way. And then I guess you know, the email really could be used effectively. To Walt's point, not everybody's, you know, on email, but, you know, I would tend to think that probably 90%, you know, are on email. And again, during our meetings and interactions with the public, to say, you know, especially if you have people who are saying that you know, we're not being responsive, you know, here, well, how did you get in touch with us? You know, where did we fail? Did we fail on a phone call? And if we did, you know, make a phone call and send an email, and you know, maybe that would help resolve it. So, you know.
Yeah. Yes, Walt.
Rich, question for you. Do you have any idea of how many people view the YouTube videos of the township meetings or are watching them?
Yes.
Are you getting a lot of people watching?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I didn't think they would be.
No, and with that being said, even we've had more participants since we've gone virtual than we've ever had in a board meeting that I've personally been in. And even with that, me saying that the most, we're probably talking 30 to 40 people.
My point to that was, particularly since it's recorded now and people can see it online, whether it would be worthwhile at the beginning of every supervisor's meeting at some point in the agenda, probably early on, to spend 1 or 2 minutes just reminding people how to contact the township, so that it's there if somebody watches the video or they're watching, oh, I didn't know that I could email, or I didn't know this, or I didn't know that. You know, if that was done maybe as a routine in every supervisor's meeting for a minute or two, that might be helpful. I don't know.
I wonder if all the residents realize that it's televised now. That's something that some people were asking for.
Yeah.
I don't know if they recognize that it is televised and that they can see it on YouTube or wherever.
I think a lot of people with televised think, oh, I want to watch it on channel, 42, the nights of the meetings, and not realize that it's, it's not TV per se.
Right, right. So maybe publicizing more the fact that it is televised and where they can see it if they're interested. Might be another thing.
I did see, I'm sorry, Denton.
Go ahead. Yes, Tina.
I did see on one of the I saw there seems to be a permit. Permits seem
Yes.
to be permit processing seems to be a theme or a reoccurring comments on the permit processing. I think people don't realize what is involved in the permit process. If they come to the township building and they don't have enough and they submit it and their information is missing, I know that one of the things that have been implemented when someone intakes a permit for Andy's review, they go through the checklist to make sure that they've got all the information before they will accept it. Because once they accept it, the clock starts running. But then sometimes the information isn't correct or whatever. And I know that Andy keeps a log of how long a permit is in process for. So I think sometimes people just don't understand that you just don't walk up to a counter because you want to put up a fence and you're going to get I don't know if you do get it for a fence, but I don't think that it's not something you do every day. I do every day, but not people generally do every day. So, and I think they're doing a better job of explaining that because you do have that board up, correct, George and Rich, when you walk up into the counter to drop something off.
Yeah, there's a lot of information at the front desk there. And then the staff are all good about explaining things to people. But I mean, I guess if you don't know how a permit works, it's a daunting, it's a daunting project. And I guess maybe this goes back to, some of the other communication things. And we've talked about this as staff before too. Sometimes the very terminology that is involved in the permit process is alien to a lot of people. A lot of it's alien to me, but you start using the definitions of things and the vocabulary that's involved with a permit, it can be very confusing. You need somebody to guide you through it.
Well, and I hear just from some comments that were that residents made, they don't understand why the permits are as expensive as they are. They don't understand what they're paying for, what that covers. Yes, Walt.
And going back to the website and getting people to use it, would it be helpful or possible, say, for example, in the section of the website that has permits, to have a YouTube video on there and say,
that's a good idea.
Learn about your permit, and have somebody from the township sit and explain in English, here, this is your checklist, this is what you need to do, this is what this means, where somebody could sit and watch it and get information, and not only just for permits, but maybe other areas where we could do, how do I do this, or how do I do that on the website.
Good suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah, I just pulled up YouTube and looked for building permits. Found building permits for dummies. There's a bunch of videos on there. There's one, Permit Like a Pro, how to obtain a building permit, done by the city of Phoenix, Arizona. It's a 5-minute, 14-second video about, I'm assuming it's, running through the steps on how to get a building permit. So that'd probably be something that'd be pretty helpful.
Yeah.
Definitely, I would think. A lot of people are used to going out to YouTube and looking up all kinds of videos on things they're wanting to do. And so that might be a good way. Yeah. Other thoughts? Any other thoughts about that?
Well,
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
just to add on to the discussion, I mean, the building permits, how's our tax money used? I mean, Rich could do a summary and say that, X percentage of our tax money goes here, goes there. Somebody, also maybe Steve could do one on, of your taxes, how much come into Newtown Township via, versus the county and, the school district. And various other topics. I think what Walt suggested there as far as the how-to
Great
video,
idea.
YouTube videos is great. I mean, but people use them all the time to do everything now. Anything around the house, you're like, oh, let me just check out YouTube. And usually there's something there that's helpful. So it's a great idea, Walt.
You could have a link on the website that says how-to videos or info
Yep.
videos, and it would take them, and it would almost be like an FAQ page, except it would be a video with somebody from the township explaining, various items.
Good way to personalize too some of the people who are actually in the township. You see and hear from them. That would be
YouTube stars, the Newtown Township YouTube stars of Newtown Township.
There you go.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what George says, I think we all kind of speak in local government. We all kind of speak our own little language that's sometimes hard to understand. So one thing that I struggle with is me and Steve both understand local government finance really well, and we'll sit there and have a conversation in front of somebody, and somebody will say, wow, it looks like you guys are speaking a totally different language. And me and him understand exactly what we're talking about. And that goes, like George just said, he's not even very familiar with everything that goes into codes. I think the staff can probably do a little bit better of a job of trying, not I don't want to say dim it down, but do a better job of explaining things about these acronyms that just fly off our tongue left and right that we understand in our own little niches that we assume everybody else understands.
The acronyms are unbelievable. I was just reading a document today, and there were so many acronyms in it, and some were explained and some were not. So it'd be really helpful, just an acronym guide sheet or something.
Yeah, we have that in SAP.
Yeah, YouTube. You need a YouTube page for that.
Yeah. And companies use them over and over again too, the same acronym. So it could mean 5 different things,
Right.
So.
Very much. Very much. That may be contributing to some of the, customer service, comments that you get that they don't understand. It's a different language, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, and actually this year in the budget, I included a table, or I'm sorry, an index in the back, and I try to weed those out. But like I said, how much information is too much information if you're reading? Who's actually going to go to look in the back, look the definition up, then continue reading the paragraph?
Right. Okay, so shall we go on to the next recommended initiative that might be helpful in putting a goal out there? Focus township initiatives on including appropriate stakeholder involvement. So this idea comes back to stakeholders are included, respected, valued by staff, elected and appointed officials, and committees who are accessible and helpful. So what thought does anybody have about how to focus township initiatives by including stakeholder involvement? Thoughts about that? Anybody?
Well, I mean, this as a start, I mean,
Right.
we sent a survey out to every home in the township, and we got, I believe it was something, Anita, you would know better than I, but it was over a 10%.
Over 1,500 people.
Yeah, over a 10% response. So this is a good start.
Yeah, I think we can take a lead. I think you've created a lead for us in going to events and having the tent set up. And I think maybe that's a way Also, when there is something going on in the community, to have a canopy with a township banner up with information, like if we've got, I don't know, whatever, for whatever reason, but anytime that there is a community event, that we have a presence. I think that's important because it's an audience that's there. And one of the other group, I don't know, I think Ed was in with me last group. Linda McIsaac has started, she's spearheaded a St. Albans placemaking. We were going to have an event in September, right, George? It was supposed to be September.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't because of COVID, but that's another, it's another way, these community events, we've now started doing these pop-up. We're trying to begin these pop-up community events to, draw attention to something like St. Albans. Maybe we can have it when Greer Park is, after the master plan for Greer Park, George, maybe we can have some kind of opening with ice cream or something, to bring all the kids in. But those are like community events. Maybe that's a way to engage people, and they get to meet the supervisors, they get to meet township staff, that we're there and we're present.
Are there any initiatives?
That answers the question, but.
Well, I wonder, are there any initiatives that might benefit by including some stakeholders in those initiatives of the township? Anybody have any thoughts about that? Yes, Rich.
So we're doing the budget a bit differently this year. And one of the things we're really doing is we're presenting the budget by directive based on the strategic plan. I think that shows us taking stakeholders' feedback into the budget of actually where their tax dollars are going, backing up to the last expected outcome as well.
Yes. Very good. And by the way, those budget meetings that you've had, I think are very good. I've come to one of those and I was very pleased to see.
Thank you.
Yes, George.
Yeah, I think that every project that the township initiates or runs tries to pull in the stakeholders that would be appropriate for that project. Again, Greer Park, the Greer Park committee has been very careful to reach out to anybody who would have a stake in Greer Park, not just, the neighbors and the people that live right there, but various groups that would be involved with that. The Greenways plan, similar. I mean, any of these things, budget workshops, et cetera. If we're missing any stakeholders, that's kind of the I know I'm asking more questions than I'm giving answers, but if we're missing people who feel like they're stakeholders, I guess we need to know who we're missing for an event that we can make sure we're reaching out to them. Because other than generally inviting the public, which we do for everything, this workshop included, who are we missing at these things that folks would feel like they're not being included as a stakeholder with it?
Do you think people realize how many stakeholders are included in some of these? Is that part of the issue?
I think when you have a project or an event, I think those working it or leading it do their best to identify all the stakeholders that are the wisest to reach out to. And then again, they always reach out to the public as a whole as well. Again, though, I mean, if folks are missed, I think if it was identified that they were being missed, that, we could make sure we do better in that and reach out to them.
Okay. Ed, were you going to say something? Uh-oh, Ed's frozen. He'll be back in a minute. Any other comments on this about including appropriate stakeholder involvement? Yes, Walt.
I know the police department, Chris, you have that mobile electronic sign that you can move around the township for various warnings or road issues or something like that. If something like that were available to the township, perhaps to put on Westchester Pike, announcing like the Greer Park event or something like that, so that you hit more of the residents driving through the town for various things, or even just township question and put the website address on there or the phone number or something like that. Not necessarily out every day, but periodically and for any type of event, just to hit a larger cross section of people.
Get more people. Okay. Looks like we lost a couple people here, so hopefully they'll be back.
Maybe they're right.
Yeah.
One of the things I just thought of, I'm sorry, Anita, one of the things I just thought of about reaching out, another way to reach out to stakeholders, we have one elementary school. We have Culbertson. So everyone who is in Culbertson is a Newtown resident, basically. I mean, there are kids that come in from outside of there. So there's an opportunity maybe for us to put information through Culbertson and through the PTO to get to maybe, newer families or definitely younger families. But that's another avenue because they are stakeholders, and it's just a thought. I'm just another avenue.
Okay.
Random thought. I just got a text from Ed. I think Ed is
You lost power.
Lost power.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay. I thought maybe something like that had happened. Okay. All right. Yes, Walt.
It's interesting when you look at all the topics we've discussed, the main thing comes back to education, educating the public and educating the residents. And that's really the key to many of the initiatives that, we're dealing with.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I was wondering if some of the public even recognize that the township is pulling in stakeholders on some of these initiatives, and perhaps they don't recognize that. And so we maybe need to publicize, educate a little bit more about the fact that that is happening. Perhaps maybe that's a part of it anyway. Okay. Anything else on that?
Real quick, I think it kind of goes back to when people say they're looking for more information, but where, we need to know where they're looking for that information. Where do they want that information to be? Because I know we've tried, redone the website, putting information up on the website, on social media, trying, all these different avenues to get information out there. But if we're missing it, how are we missing it?
Yes.
Other than general statements that just say people aren't getting enough information.
Right. Yeah, no, I think what Tina was saying about when they open their tax bill, if there's information in there that maybe they're looking for, and then the website, I think that would be another, one of the things we've already talked about that would be good. Okay. What about review and revise as needed township fiduciary and business processes to be efficient, effective, and up to date? What do you think about that aspect? Are there some things we could do with respect to that?
I think that Steve and Rich have done a great job, so I'm not really sure what, maybe it's just information. Maybe people just don't understand where what their taxes are going. Maybe it's just education again, that they don't know where their taxes are going. I mean, we didn't have a tax increase last year, and we're doing a road program. Rich and Steve just refinanced our debt down to a 0.78%. Is that what it is, Rich? Something like that?
Yeah, yes. Somewhere
It's under 1%. Also, the road program. How many miles of roads are we doing, George?
11 this year.
11 miles of roads being, because I see that
Out of 50,
Yeah, it's pretty significant, and there was no tax increase. And we bought a fire truck. So I think it's just education, and I think it's just getting that information out there. Everyone wants to say that, government wastes money and if nothing else, they squeeze money out of a penny, that's for sure. So I'm not really sure. I think it's just education.
So maybe it's articulating what things the township already is doing to be efficient and effective and up to date. More the education. Yes, Chris, and then George.
Yeah, I think Stephen and Rich have done a tremendous job with the budget. The township, I don't know how many years in a row now the township's gotten clean audits, which is new since Stephen and Rich have been working here. So they've done, I think, a great job. I think the township's credit rating has come up. It's almost at the highest level it can be. So I'm a little, that kind of makes me scratch my head, and people just aren't listening if they think that there's issues with the business processes and the finances of the township, because I don't think they've ever been better.
So maybe that's the education process.
Thank you, Chris, by the way. I appreciate that.
Go on. No, we need to say the good things that are happening, and that maybe people don't realize what all is being done. So again, that education process maybe is what is required there. Any other thoughts? Oh, George, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no, and it's and please understand, I realize I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think like it's beyond education. It's where are they looking for this information that we can have it there for them. I think the information exists, and I think it exists very well. The question is, where is it they want to look for it so that we can put it there for them? And I think at the end of the day, they need to tell us that so that we can provide that service to them. Because otherwise we're guessing.
Mm-hmm.
So the other group is asking me if they're ready to join. Should I allow them to come back, or we want to give a 5-10 minute warning to them, or?
If we could have, say, 5 more minutes and then
Absolutely.
back, how about that?
Absolutely.
Because I do want us to take a look at this last initiative, examine processes, interactions with the community to ensure uniform enforcement of ordinances, codes, policies, and directives. This came up a number of times. In fact, there were quite a number of comments having to do with this, uniformly enforcing the ordinances, codes, and policies we have. So what thoughts does anybody have regarding some goals? Yes, Tina.
I think that this comes from, because we've encountered this when we've had complaints with regard to there's properties, there's residents that are not good citizens, but we are limited as a township by not just our own ordinances, but by the state. And we do look at, and I know that George and Andy have been, when we do have complaints on these, we have changed some of our ordinances so that we can be a little bit more aggressive. But what happens is if, we're limited on what we can charge for fines, right? You can't make money off of fines. It can't be punitive. So we are actually limited. And again, this comes back down to education. We do, when there is a complaint, they go right out and they investigate, and we've had a person, a property that has been a problem for 12 years, George.
Yeah.
Like that. And
Yes.
take it as far as they can take it. And then they go to court, and then they play that game. So once you go to court, it's out of our hands. So I think, again, it's education, but we do try to respond to those ordinances and code, and the codes, so that we can make it a better place. But we, again, we are limited by what we can do. And George, please expand upon that. And if there is a place that you see that we can make a difference, again, maybe this is a YouTube video. Maybe this is, about, what your responsibility as a property owner and, that kind of a thing.
And that's the challenge. I mean, following up on what you're saying is, you know, you do everything that's within your ability to do. And sometimes I understand neighbors may not be happy that you haven't done what they wanted done to the person. And that's not within our purview to do. It goes to the court. It goes, you know, they do what they need to do to get out of trouble. Maybe that doesn't mean they did what their neighbor wanted them to do. But it, you know, again, I think if there were some specifics as to what people are thinking, because I think there is a huge effort to make sure that there is fairness for everybody, and it is uniformly applied across the board. I don't think that I'm aware of instances where one person may be allowed to get away with something and another person is called on the carpet for it.
The comment I've heard made is that some of the developers get away with things that individuals would not be able to get away with. There seems to be some of that sentiment out there. So maybe that's where some of it is coming from. Some have to do things that others don't have to do. That idea, what I've heard expressed.
I don't personally, I hear the developers say the opposite. So I don't know what.
Depends on your perspective.
Some of the developers feel very much like they have to do more than other people would have to do. So it's humorous that it's, you know, it comes both ways.
It's all in the perception, I guess. Other comments? Yes, Tina.
No, I think you're right. And it's a larger scale. So you see that. And we do have some developers who are not very cooperative, but we're confined of what we can do. So, and also I think, I don't know what my point was. Anyway, I forget.
Okay.
Thursday, I forgot.
Yeah, were you looking?
Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. Oh my gosh.
It is. I'm sorry, Rich, did you have your hand up or no?
I did not know.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone about this? So we're kind of back to the education. We need to educate better about what the process is and what can be done and can't be done. Okay. All right. Anything in general over what we've covered here? Anything else we need to spend a minute on before we go back to the group? Well, if not, Rich, if you want to let them know, we're ready when they are.
All right, let me make a phone call.
Wait, did we lose Bill?
We lost Bill, yeah.
I've been trying to take some notes.
Oh, no.
I was afraid we lost power.
Oh no, I just
I
noticed.
tried to take a few notes myself.
Bill and Ed are in the same neighborhood, so they both.
Oh,
look-
right.
Oh dear. Okay.
That means it's coming my way. Usually when a little bit later, I'll lose it.
Here we come. Getting some of the group back.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. If you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to pull up another screen because Sonia had problems with her computer with that. So let me do that real quick.
Well, we lost Bill partway through this too. I'm going to see if he can send us what he has. I was trying to take notes as he dropped off.
Okay.
That's not good.
So I have a JN calling in.
JN?
Yeah.
I don't.
Is that John?
I was gonna say, is that
No.
John?
It might be
John's right there.
Yeah, John's right here.
Who's
Sonia had to call in, so it might be if she's got.
Sonia, though? Sonia would be SD.
Yeah, but it's her phone, so it might be her work or whatever.
So they're currently unmuted.
I think that's Sonia down at the bottom there, 610-299.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
That's me.
I
Oh,
thought so.
Okay.
I don't have internet connection at my house right now, so I'm trying to use my phone as a hotspot to send you this document, Steve.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
we
if not, we'll make it up as we go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, thank you. Okay. Why am I off? Okay, here we go.
There you
All
go.
right. So we lost Bill totally?
Yes, we
Okay.
did. He sent me an email just to say that he lost power and he'll return to the meeting when power comes back on. I tried to email him, hoping maybe his phone was working, and ask him to send the document he had, if he could, to you or to me, but I haven't gotten anything at this point. I took some notes toward the end because I realized he dropped off, but I don't have the first part. But maybe some of our folks on the call with us can help fill in some.
So we have a similar challenge from both groups. So what we're going to do is we're going to just work right through it. And, you know, if nothing else, this COVID has taught us how to improvise along the way, right? And so we'll do that. So somebody from Anita's group, if you would kind of start talking us through some of the things that you came up with, and we'll do it a little different tonight. If we're going to just take each outcome and Rich, are you on a township computer?
I am.
Can you pull up a Word document and just take some notes as we go along?
Sure, as long as you and George can monitor if anybody needs to be unmuted.
All right.
Yes, have you made me a host again or a co-host? So
Yes.
while we're doing that, we'll go ahead, and so if we can just get some comments, and what we'll do is we'll do this a little different tonight, but we'll keep the process moving if we can. We'll go through each one of the outcomes and just kind of what you talked about related to that outcome from each group. And we'll go from there. And we don't have the screen, but we'll talk through it and do it that way. So from Anita's group, what were some of the things that came from your first outcome? Some of the suggestions.
So that idea of clearly presented, available, organized, widely distributed. We talked about some ideas with respect to that. Can anybody help us with that part?
Well, we talked about that it's kind of a broad and general statement that doesn't really point to any areas that the township is not, where the township isn't putting information. So we talked about how, if there was more information submitted as to where people are looking for the information that they're saying that they can't find and that isn't readily available because, the website's been redone. A lot of information is put on the website. The township uses social media to put information out there. So we kind of weren't sure exactly where people wanted the information they were looking for.
Yeah.
Trying to find what was missing.
I think that was also true from the first, from the group that I was leading. That was a fair statement. I think that came back that, you know, they just weren't sure where all of those pieces, you know, what the real issues were.
And Tina, I think you had a suggestion about that had been discussed before about using the text document when it comes out to.
Yeah, we had talked about before putting in with the tax bill just a sheet of paper that maybe was a pie chart that showed, you know, your school taxes, your county taxes, and your township taxes, and then maybe on the other side, just showing another pie chart of what your township taxes include, how your township taxes broke down. Because in this way, you know what you're paying for. You know, like when you go to the grocery store and you buy a gallon of milk, you know that it's $4 or whatever it is. You know, at least you know you're getting that gallon of milk. So it was just an idea. Oh, Leonard's muted. Oh, can we keep?
Don't unmute him.
Oh, I said that out loud. Sorry.
It's like no, I was just saying, I like that idea. It's sort of like a year in review of what residents are getting. I think that's smart. I like that.
I don't think a lot of residents realize how it's broken down. So that is a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Another comment was to use the periodic sewer bills also as an area to include, you know, small bits of information, because everybody does open them and read them. And there was also comment that a lot of people may just, the quarterly magazine, yeah, I got it, but I don't look at it. That, you know, a lot of people comes in with 6 other catalogs from companies and they just throw them out.
Anything else anybody from our group remembers with respect to that discussion, more ways to communicate? Is that the one where we were talking about putting somebody, when we have community events, having a booth for a tent for the township and having somebody there to help answer questions? Maybe that was another one that we were talking about.
I think that goes with this as well, though.
Yeah.
We had talked about with the strategic plan, they were very good about being very visible. Events. And, you know, maybe there's an opportunity at different events to have a tent or a canopy and a supervisor or, you know, someone, you know, at different times that we could all kind of be there but be a presence so that they know that we're there.
Sure.
Okay.
Good thoughts. I did get Sonia's shot over to us, so I'm going to pull it up, I think. Whoops. If everybody can read that, that'll be good.
We'll work on that, Steve.
Not a problem.
Yes, here we go.
So I think most of the comments here were pretty much the same. We talked about the fact that you know, one of the comments was related to the police not stopping, and you know that we know that Chris has his team actually stop and get out and do walkarounds, particularly in the shopping centers and businesses and things like that. And so, you know, so we did address that and talk about that. I mean, again, that may be one of those things that we just need to communicate better. On some levels, we're kind of careful about what we communicate exactly, but you know, that's something that we could communicate to the public that would be fine. That, you know, our officers every shift are required to get out and do a walking period just to get out and check and make sure everything's good and secure and things like that. And it's not just at night. we talked about, potentially, do we need to do some, like some kind of training or something, or at least in a document that would be out that would allow people to make better understand how to navigate the website in that way. And did I miss anything from the first group? Our first thing that somebody wants to bring up?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I was just going to say that stakeholders can get email notifications from the township, but they've got to be directed to the website to sign up for those. And that might help with getting timely information.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
That may be something that can maybe be on that sheet of paper, or maybe that can be what is in in your sewer bill, to sign up, or on the envelope, sign up for email notifications, and put that on the front of the envelope.
Okay.
That would be a good thing to emphasize. Yes.
All right. Number 2, we talked about the township fiduciary business processes are efficient and effective. Anything out of the first group or Anita's group?
Well, that first thing you have mentioned from your group is one that we talked about. Achieving the budget award is very onerous, tremendous amount of information that maybe more than the public would ever want to know, but is there a way that we could provide information? That came up in our group. Other thoughts from those in our group that we discussed about the efficient, effective? I remember the education part of that somebody brought up. That maybe people don't realize exactly all the things that the township is doing. And maybe we need to educate a little more on what those things are with respect to budgeting and financial and fiduciary, that whole idea of what the township has done to be at the forefront of best practices for a township. Any others have any other comments that you remember from that part from our group?
Just that I thought the township was doing a good job with that, with their, several years now in a row, we've had clean audits. I think that proves that the business processes are efficient and effective. It's just a matter of educating the residents about that.
Helping people understand what has been done, what has been achieved that way, maybe. Okay. Anything else from our group?
All right. How about the group that I was leading? Anybody want to make any comments that are different than what the other group had?
There's a lot of crossover there, I see.
Yes, there is. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things we did talk about that, even this doing maybe more of what, we talked about a comprehensive financial report, but we've also talked about this concept of maybe more of a public facing smaller report that, you get into a comprehensive financial report, it gets very large, but, something that people would look at, maybe that could be done as a mailer and things like that. And I think the other thing we talked about too was this idea that, all processes should be, have a set review period, just to make sure that we don't get stuck doing the same thing just because we've always done it that way. Anything I missed or anything else anybody wants to add? All right, we said that number 3 and number 4 were kind of similar.
Yeah.
In our discussion, but let's look at those. And we have the township is elected and appointed officials, staff are accessible, helpful to the residents and business owners. and that the township's stakeholders are included, respected, and valued by the township staff and elected and appointed officials and committees who are accessible and helpful. What are some of the things that came up for those?
So how about in our group, were there things that we talked about that should be, I know one of the, Walt, you had a very good suggestion about some of what the township does do and trying to be helpful to residents. Do you want to talk a little bit about the YouTube video idea?
Yeah. So, a lot of the processes that residents are required to do, and I think we were specifically talking about permits, are fairly complicated. And my thought was if we had a series of YouTube, or well, they'd be on YouTube, but they'd be on the website, a link, how-to video where you go to the permits page and you'd have somebody from the township would be, maybe 4 or 5 minute video explaining the permit process so that, the average person can understand it. Or maybe, have them in different areas, almost like an FAQ type situation, but with somebody actually explaining it to you in more layman's terms that people can understand.
Good idea.
You know what? Well, I think that is a great idea because a lot of people are visual.
Right.
And maybe reading it is not going to have the same impact as them actually watching what you're doing. I like that idea.
Yeah, because like, for example, the permit, all right, this is your checklist that you have to go through and what different things mean and what the documents that you need to supply really are, not just, a piece of paper that says I did this, or, things like that, where it makes it a little more understandable to the average person. Obviously, if it's a developer, you're not going to have that issue, but for a lot of the homeowners, you may.
Agreed.
Just to jump in, Ed actually expanded on that and said it just shouldn't be for permits. It should also be for things along the budget line. Can we sum the budget up in, a 5-minute video, something on?
I think it could be for all types of situations, not just the permit. That was just an example, but you could have a lot of videos throughout the website
Right.
explaining different things.
I like that idea.
There's a lot you can do to communicate and educate
Yeah.
using that.
Very
Good job, Walt.
Yes.
Anything else related to either one of those two topics?
There was a lot of discussion in our group about educating the public about some of the things that are happening. The feeling was there are good things that are occurring that maybe everyone is aware of, and that it would be good to try to educate more. And that whole question of where do people want to get the information seems to be the question mark that people have.
Yeah. If I look back at what we did with this survey, we got such great responses to this survey. One of the questions I would have asked, how do you want to receive information? Because it is one of those things that we're like, we're doing a variety of things, but what really is the best way to get the information out?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Steve.
Yeah.
Can you unmute John, please?
No, John's shaking his head no, he doesn't want to be unmuted. Did you want to be unmuted, John?
I am now, it's okay.
You can mute yourself again. I think anybody from the group that I was leading want to add anything in regards to those issues?
Mm-mm.
No.
The YouTube video would go with the FAQs. I
Yeah.
mean, that would tie right in.
I think this really highlights our need for a more of a communications person or a communications responsibility in the township, someone who's dedicated to, I guess, to use the term that Len used, pushing this information out to people. I think, we do a very good job of having it available. I think we're extremely transparent. I think it's there, but maybe we need to stop expecting people to come find it and do a better job of pushing it out to people, not just in their traditional means, but in, through all these different platforms that I know little or nothing about. So.
That was a comment I made, John, is that, not everybody is a internet and social media guru, and that probably you two included. But, those are probably some of the people, and it probably tends to be an older part of the population that may be less electronically savvy, but they're the ones that may want the information even more, and we have to get it to them.
Yeah, and I think if we had, and again, it's not anything against our current staff, but I think they got their hands filled with so many other things. I think if we had a dedicated person to communications and marketing and whatever you want to call it, that could push this information out to people, the message isn't going to change. It's just that it's going to be more readily available to these folks. And maybe that takes a lot of the issues under this heading off the table, because I think in general, and we talked about it in our group, I think in general, we do a great job. We're trained, we are transparent. We do have the information available. Maybe we're just not pushing it out enough.
Our group brought up, maybe not everybody realizes now that the township meetings are televised via YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a recent thing, and maybe not everybody realizes that that's the case.
I had asked Rich the question of if he had an idea of how many people were actually watching the YouTube video of the township meeting. And he said it wasn't that many, maybe 30 to 40, was it, Rich? He said, on average. But my thought was that maybe it would be helpful in front of every supervisors meeting in the very early stages of it to just dedicate 1 or 2 minutes to somebody speaking about ways to reach the township, the website, the social media, the email list. So that if somebody does watch those videos or is online watching them, we hit those people at least with more information about how to contact us.
Good idea.
That is a good
Yeah.
idea. Anything else related to number 3 or number 4? Understanding that the difference really, I think, in number 4 is to make sure that stakeholders are included, not just in that, but I think we've talked about particularly some of the other directives about having some more committees that would involve more people from the community, that. So I think it's going to be a natural outcome kind of what we're doing. When we add more things to do, we need to get more people involved in the process if we're going to get them all accomplished.
Well, and some may not be aware of how many stakeholders are involved now in different projects. Again, it's a communication effort maybe to make residents more aware of that.
Sure. I think about this group, the strategic plan group was, all residents that, not that the board's not, because the board's all residents too, but, and staff, but it was really all residents were involved in the process. And then you think about, our Greer Park plan, our Greenways plan, we've involved a lot of people from the public in the process, and we continue to do so.
I think visibility, especially with your group, Anita, you guys were visible at every event, which was crucial. Now with COVID, it's pretty hard to be visible, and a lot of the events were canceled.
Yes.
The only thing I want to add, and I don't mean to, I feel like I said this phrase last week, suck the oxygen out of the room, is to the point that Steve just made about how many people there are involved in either the Greenways plan or the Greer Park study plan or the strategic plan committee. At the same time, every year though, we do struggle to find individuals who serve on the planning commission, the zoning hearing board, the EAC, Parks and Rec. that information we put on the website, we as supervisors talk it up to people, we announce it at meetings, we put it on Facebook, I put it on my supervisor's page. But at the same time, it's difficult. It is difficult to try to get people. I mean, I'm concerned about what's going to happen with the Shade Tree Commission. Obviously I think it's an important commission to have, and I think I fully support that ordinance, but I'm worried about whether we're going to be able to fully staff that when it comes down to start advertising for people to join that too. So it's just something to kind of to think of when we're talking about involving stakeholders. Are we not putting out a large enough net to get people, or do people not want to necessarily serve on these and just kind of provide comments? Which there's no issue with that, but it's just something that I think is relevant to the discussion.
That's a good point.
I think it's an accurate statement.
And some people want to know, where do I go to find out how to get involved? This may be another communication opportunity for us.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that typically all of this happens at the beginning of the year, and that people are assigned at that point. And so somebody comes and asks, how do I get involved in May? And we tell them that by the time November comes around, they either never gave us enough information for us to come back to them, or they don't realize that we're going out again and asking for resumes and things like that for people to be involved in those things. And when I say that, I think we want to be, I know the board's looking for a resume, but it's not like a job resume. They're just looking for what's your experience, what it is that you're going to bring. It doesn't have to be anything formal. I want to be clear with that so that people understand that it is a formal process that the board goes through, but they're just trying to get information about the person. They're not looking at whether or not everything's perfect on what you've written out. All right.
I think Tina's muted.
Oh, Tina's muted. I will unmute Tina, I think.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts, because you're talking about the resume, maybe if, again, onto the website, if there's a form that could be, that's just simple, that's an easy click, want to get involved, and you just go on a form, fill out the information, and, planning commission, shade tree, and then that way, if someone thinks of it, they go on the website, and then we have that, and we can follow up later. Or if someone says, I'd like to get involved, and we're in the grocery store or something, we can say, go onto the website, and there's a form there.
Yep.
So maybe if you make it easy that way. Something else I had mentioned was about Culbertson Elementary. That we can, I know with young families, sometimes it's hard for them to be involved in something, but maybe there's information that we can leave for parents at the township, or about the township at Culbertson, since they're most of 98% of the people that their kids go to Culbertson are Newtown residents. Just another avenue, that's all.
And to kind of expand on that too, I wonder if the use of the word resume, now that I think about it,
It's intimidating.
turns people off.
Mhm.
That's why I think the form.
Yeah, there might be individuals who haven't worked in 30 years and might not have a resume, but are, overly qualified for a position and just don't think about applying because it's like another hurdle. It's an interesting thought to kind of think through.
That's why the form's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a common application for college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
Paul.
could- Another point for a YouTube video, get involved, where somebody explains, that, things start at the beginning of the year. If you're interested, don't come in July. For the beginning of the year, and explain, the quote resume that you're looking for, or not resume. You're looking for people that have, a vested interest and some experience. Where again, you're actually putting it with a face and voice to let people know.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a YouTube channel, then that's what I was saying about all of us being Newtown Township stars. We'll have a YouTube channel.
Well, actually, we do have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
should
this is
all
going out to
propagate
it
it,
right
right,
now.
Leonard? Leonard will be the producer.
Oh, just keep piling it on.
Uh-huh.
All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to move us on to the last one. But if you have other comments, we'll sure take them. We talked about this concept of uniformly enforce all township ordinances, codes, policies, and directives. Any thoughts from Anita's group that came out?
I thought one of the comments that someone had is that people don't always understand that there are some limitations in terms of what the township can do to enforce some of the ordinances, that you can only go so far. If someone takes someone to court, when that happens, then the township's in a different position, and that maybe it's not recognized that may be the case.
Mm-hmm.
But others, please, other comments that we had from folks about that.
Well, I think the big issue that we discussed with that was the fact that a lot of times people aren't comparing apples to oranges. That a decision that's made, on one property may seem like a different decision is being made on another property on the same issue, but in reality, it might not be the same issue. So in a vacuum, it's real easy to say that, geez, we're not applying the codes fairly, but in reality, we may be. It's just that perhaps the folks don't understand the nuances that are associated with that application. And the other thing that goes along with that is codes change over time. So 20 years ago, it might not be good now, or vice versa. So what might have been denied 20 years ago may be certainly permitted now. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and lack of education that when people make these comments.
And we had some discussion about education, about how the process works.
Right.
Yeah.
They realize how the process works.
What? Oh.
Hi, Mike.
I just muted him, so I hope he turns his thing back on when he wants to come back in.
Is that because you weren't taking public comment?
Oh, boy.
All right. Anything else related to that section? I think it's kind of covered most of what I know was said in our group. Any other comments? Again, this one's probably one a little bit more difficult because it looks more at us, as a group of folks, and it's like we've got to take a look at it and understand that there is a sense that there is a perception, and as I shared with the group that was in the breakout session, you do one thing. Or you've been doing a certain thing really well for a long time, but you do it wrong one time, and everybody remembers the one time. And in government, one of the challenges is that if what happened in the past, and it could have been 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or it could have been 5 years ago, if it was a certain way, the assumption is that maybe it's the same way today. And so we want to continue to make sure that we're communicating well, that we're getting information out, and that we are being consistent over and over and over again in our approach, so that when people do have the question, it at least appears that we're being consistent. And as John said, there are times that people are comparing an apple to an orange, and it makes it more difficult. But we need to be prepared to explain the difference so that people can understand. And if the code was different at a time before and now it's changed, that is something that does happen, But again, thank you all for tonight. I'm looking at our time, and I have that it's already after 8. I did have one area, if you just give me a second. I did want to ask a question related to one of the things that came out of Directive 2 was this concept of making sure that we educated people. And so one of the goals that I was looking at was this idea of, over a relatively short period of time. One of the things I learned when I took marketing, and it was one of the few things I learned when I took marketing, was that you need to get, if you want something in front of somebody and you want them to really start to recognize it, they have to see it at least 7 times before they even start to notice it. And so, you know, we talk about saying we're going to do this piece, that we're going to, you know, do a thing for the website, or we're going to do a thing for whatever. I really thought one of the goals that I had put down was this idea that we would do 7 occurrences of educating about where information was for the township, and where were some of the places that people could get information related to the township and how they could get it. And we would do that over, like, you know, with about 2-week gap in between each one, so that you would do it relatively close to 7 different times, and it would be 7 different ways, because the other thing about it is that people need to see it in different ways for it to register. You know, I see the same thing and I ignore it, and but if you see something different each time, it kind of catches your eye and it makes you kind of look back, and then you start putting the pieces together, and at least I do start pulling the pieces together in my brain. So it's one of those thoughts. Does that make sense? Is it, or is it kind of disjointed in my thought process there?
I think it makes sense, but again, it comes back to the question is, how do you reach the people to get them that information?
Yeah, it would be a challenge to make sure it was widespread enough. You know, it might be even involving saying that we're going to do 7 mailings to every home, which would be a lot, particularly if we did it over a 14 or, you know, so week period.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Rich has got his hand raised and I've got him muted.
No, with that being said, though, this strategic plan was the best response that we've gotten to date. So, I mean, maybe mailing it and having it in front of them 7 times might be cost effective.
So
I think too, I mean, nothing beats personal interaction. And I think that probably half the response, or I have no basis on that at all, so I don't really know, but I think that having them there during the primary and literally grabbing someone, I mean, you can send someone as many things as you want. And you're right, it does take 7 times for someone to register, you know, with something, but until you actually grab them, it's the same thing when you're trying to get someone to join an organization. You don't bring them in and say, hey, you know, you want to join? Great, I'll send you an application. No, you have them sit down and fill out the application right there, because that's what gives them the incentive to join. So I think that nothing beats, as much as I'd love to be the township star on YouTube, I think nothing beats the personal connection. The weather has us all tired. We're all like, come on, Leonard, just stop talking now.
No, I just.
Oh, Chief,
I just had this vision of you being the star on YouTube. All right. All right. With that, I'm going to let us go for this evening. I know we're a little past 8, and I know everybody's had a long night already, so I'm going to let us go. We will again meet next Monday evening, and we'll be looking at Directive 5 as the last directive. So, you know, please come prepared, having looked at that, and then we'll go from there. So thank you all for being out tonight. I appreciate it. We had a few minor hiccups, and we'll work through that. Hopefully Rich was able to take good notes and got everything that was said this time, and remembered some things that were missing, and we'll pull all those pieces together and try to come up with what we need to for tonight's process. So thank you all for being here. Just again, reminder, next Monday night at 6:30, we'll be doing the same thing. Well, we'll be doing Directive 5. So thank you all.
Great.
Have a good
Bye.
Night.
good night.
Be careful.